Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this video. Today we are going to once again enter the world of Kingdom of Fear by Hunter S. Thompson. I hope everyone's enjoying this playlist and checking out the other playlists, the Gen X, the Rabbits, the Black Tapes. So without any further ado, let's get into this thing.
The witness. Not everybody understands the real meaning of being brought within the system. It is legal language, the kind of talk you hear in the hallways at professional police conventions or...
And he is exactly right on this whole particular diatribe.
Pre-trial hearings in musty urban courtrooms. As in, the time has come, Judge, to drop the net on this loathsome criminal deviant and reel him into the system. We are talking about the criminal justice system here.
And having worked in CJ for 25 years of my life, I have seen a lot of people that were petty criminals, maybe just had a bad day, made some really poor choices, but because society deemed them unfit, were doing, insane amount of time for something where somebody else in a different socioeconomic group doing the exact same thing, or maybe something even a little bit worse, nothing.
And once you get brought into it, there will be a part of your brain that thinks about nothing else for the rest of your life.
And that goes for the correction officers as well. There are things I still do out of habit from being a correctional officer for 25 years. Chickens. When I put my chickens up at night, I always count my chickens. I watch them go in, go to bed. I know exactly how many there are, but I have to count them. That's one of the things we did continuously. As a correction officer, I count things just constantly.
It will be as if a leech had attached itself to the small of your back forever. Just ask Bill Clinton. Some people call it...
Oh, tricky Bill. Slick Willie. Tricky Dick was Nixon. Slick Willie. Yeah, he was shady as hell just as president, as governor, as Joe average citizen. Yeah. Slick Willie came from way too much money.
Rehabilitation. But a cop killing is always big news. Except when police kill one of their own.
Then they kind of shift the blame.
In which case, the death notice is rarely, if ever, made public. The law enforcement fraternity is very tight when it comes to media embarrassment. There is a basic operating rule among criminal defense lawyers that says, above all, the lawyer must not go to jail.
And that is so true. So true.
It is not always an easy rule to observe, given that the lawyer is also an ordained officer of the court. Be keenly aware of this fact when you get accused, on paper, formal charges are filed, of anything at all.
Yeah, he's moving to a very valid point.
Anything, from shoplifting to felony murder, that could, might, will result in your being convicted and formally punished in any way for any violation of any part of any criminal code. The law is not on your side when you become a defendant in a criminal courtroom. They are out to get you.
And if you just happen to have a shade skin tone that's a little too dark, you know all about this.
And they will, if you are not alert. He who goes to law takes a wolf by the ears. Robert Burton said that, and I am citing it as a very dangerous reality in this war-torn world that we live in.
And yes, it is very, very much taking the wolf by the ears.
This is 2002. The American century was over in January of 2001. They were punctual, as the fascist mentality cannot survive without brute punctuality.
And look at what's going around today.
Never be late for fear of being guilty of deviant behavior and brought within the system. Bang, slam, bend over, Sieg Heil. Who is God? The boss is God, and you're not.
And that is such a accurate description of all the political parties in America. Or I should say the prominent ones. Libertarians, Republicans, Democrats, all fall into that narrative.
Hey, Rube, you are nothing. You are guilty. You are lower than the shit of some filthy animal. Yassa, boss, I'll do anything. Just don't put me in jail. I am guilty. I will do whatever you say.
And that is exactly what your elected rulers want. Like I said, it doesn't matter what party, Libertarian, Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. That is exact. All three of those parties want that level of servitude.
It was a cold winter night when the witness first came to my house. She was a very large woman, about 35 years old, dark hair, long legs, and tastefully enlarged breasts, who once worked in Southern California as a director of sex films. That is not a bad job to have in L.A., especially if you have a natural talent for it, and this woman did.
Yeah, this is one of those sections where I had one of the reasons why I have the disclaimer cards that I have at the beginning of these videos.
I recognized it immediately. I know the sex business. I was the night manager of the famous O'Farrell Theater in San Francisco for 2 years, and I still have a keen eye for working girls. There's a certain lewd radiance about them that comes only from dancing naked in public for 2,000 nights. Sex business people recognize one another immediately. They have ridden for the XXX brand, and the brand has ridden them.
And more than one way. Probably more ways than we're willing to try and count.
It is not an unfriendly brand. Nothing like a scar on the cheek or a crude tattoo on top of a butt that says property of Hell's Angels. That would not be appropriate for a stylish lap dancing venue in Nashville or Toledo. The customers would be offended. Big tippers tend to be wary of a woman who has pulled the Hell's Angels train. The mark of the XXX business is an attitude more than a brand or a nasty tattoo.
And especially in this modern day and age, the porn business, adult entertainment or whatever you want to call it, has kind of diversified. I mean, it's still shady as get all, but they've got a better public-facing persona now than they did in, say, the 70s or 80s, back in the 1900s.
The O'Farrell was once celebrated as the Carnegie Hall of public sex in America. It was a nice place to work in those money-mad years of the Reagan Revolution. We had about 100 girls on the payroll and many more on the waiting list. Naked women were a hot commodity in those days. It was the golden era of pornography, according to chronicles of that ilk.
Yeah, and somebody who grew up in that time period, I would honestly say, that's a fairly accurate description, probably into the late 90s, early 2000s.
When sex movies were still shot with bright lights and reels of celluloid film. Deep Throat and Behind the Green Door were still packing huge multi-sexual crowds into respectable theaters all over the country. Oral sex was mainstream, and lush entertainment expenses were tax-deductible. Huge expense money was the oil that kept the national economy going.
And I think to a certain degree, he has a very valid point that, sex sells. Which is an old thing. I remember that adage as far back as probably 1976, 1977 is the first time I remember hearing it. But no, it is one of those things.
And sex was everywhere, 24 hours a day. Powder cocaine was the recreational drug of choice, but LSD-25 was still fashionable in upscale communes and coastal brokerage firms.
Yes, lysergic acid diethamide 25. Ooh, good stuff. Too bad it's not legal. It should be legal, but we have alcohol and that just destroys your body, so might as well have something that's destroys your body that's legal instead of and expands your consciousness. Keep that illegal. We don't want people being able to think.
Those 26 crazed years between the introduction of the birth control pill and the eruption of AIDS was a wild and orgiastic time in America, and I loved it. But that was many years ago. Or at least it seems that way.
Yeah, I think now that this is personal opinion, that kids now, when I say kids, I mean teenagers, college kids, stuff like that, don't have the emphasis on sex that we did growing up, in the 80s. Late 70s, 80s, we're all about, the orgasm, getting an orgasm, having an orgasm. And I think that the college age kids, teenagers and stuff, while they do engage in sex because, well, that's what humans do, they're not near as focused on it as we were, us 80s kids growing up.
It was a good time to be young and reckless, when you could still take your date to a movie without having to worry about being hit on by strangers demanding blowjobs. That came in with the Democrats, who quickly discovered that getting busted in Washington for sodomy was a proven way to get reelected in states like Arkansas and California.
See, the thing is I think that's kind of what Trump keyed into. That, look at all the crazy shit that, he's alleged to have done. And I say alleged. And he's still as popular as ever. It's kind of freaky that way.
If Bill Clinton had not been term limited by federal law, he would still be in the White House today, and we would all be free from fear.
It makes you wonder how much of that would actually be true and how much of that is hyperbole.
Or maybe not. There is another school of thought that says Clinton would have been assassinated if he'd been able to run for a third term. The Texas Mafia would never have let it happen, my friend Curtis assured me. He would have been jerked out like a bad tooth. Maybe you have to be from Texas to agree with talk like that, but I doubt it. Texas is not the only state full of wealthy freaks with sinister agendas.
And he sure, he sure hit that nail on the head, especially for Texas. Our elected rulers, especially our current attorney general and our current governor and our current lieutenant governor, all consider themselves the three kings of Texas. So yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Some of them are friends of mine, in fact, and I have never doubted that just because they're nice people to have a few drinks with doesn't mean they won't do monstrous things.
Yeah, he's completely right there. Very, very right. And I think we'll go ahead and call the video good here. We'll come back later, probably tomorrow, and have another little infusion to get us through our day of some Hunter S. Thompson and his wisdom. So until then, be a good human, be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?